All right, let's talk about Solana. You've definitely heard the name, and you've almost certainly heard the hype. It's supposed to be one of the fastest blockchains in the world. But here's the thing, there's a massive paradox right at its heart, and that's what we're going to unpack today. How can the world's fastest blockchain also be famous for just, well, breaking? And this slide really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got this insane promise, up to 65,000 transactions per second. To put that in perspective, that's Visa-level speed. But then you look at the reality, and it's a history of complete network shutdowns that have left everyone high and dry. So that brings us to the big question, right? What is really going on? Are these just normal growing pains for new technology, or is there something fundamentally flawed in Solana's DNA? To figure that out, we have to look at the evidence. So let's start by looking back at the history of these outages. Because these aren't just random glitches, you see. There's a very clear pattern here. Okay, now look closely at this timeline, because this is where the plot thickens. Notice a common theme. September 2021, bot traffic. May 2022, NFT minting bots. January 2022, a flood of high compute transactions. Time and time again, the story is the same. The network cracks under a massive, targeted wave of demand. Now, the most recent outage in February 2024 was caused by a different kind of bug, but that history, man, it paints a very clear picture of the network's main vulnerability. And we're not talking about a little blip. The impact is very, very real. 17 hours. Just let that number sink in. That's how long the network was completely dark back in September 2021. For a global system that's supposed to be on 24/7, 17 hours isn't just an inconvenience, it's a catastrophe. Okay, so we've seen what keeps happening. Now for the fun part, why does it keep happening? To understand that, we've got to pop the hood and look at the very thing that makes Solana so special. This right here is proof of history, or POH. It's Solana's secret sauce. The best way to think of it is like a super fast cryptographic clock that timestamps every single transaction before it's even processed. This creates a perfect, verifiable order of events, which lets all the validators process transactions like crazy without constantly having to check in with each other. It's an absolutely brilliant innovation for speed. But, and it's a big but, it has an Achilles heel. So how does that incredible speed actually become a weakness? Well, it usually plays out in 3 steps. First, you get a swarm of bots, maybe for a hyped NFT launch, and they just bombard the network with an insane volume of transactions. Second, the validators get completely overwhelmed. There was no real system to prioritize legitimate transactions over all this spam, so it's just chaos. And the result? The validators can't agree on the state of the network anymore. Consensus fails, and the whole chain just stops. And this gets to the absolute heart of the issue. The root cause wasn't just technical, it was also economic. Solana had a single global fee structure that was incredibly cheap. This basically created an open invitation for bot operators to fire hose the network with spam to get what they wanted, all with almost no financial penalty. You know, this quote from a network engineer just nails it perfectly. Solana's architecture optimized for the best case scenario, not the worst. The whole thing was built for sunny days. The outages are what happens when the hurricane hits, and the network kept finding itself totally unprepared. But, of course, the story doesn't end there. The community and the core developers have been working tirelessly on some major upgrades to fix these problems. So the real question is, can Solana actually be fixed? Let's take a look at the solutions. Here are some of the big guns being rolled out. You have localized fee markets, a new data protocol called Quick, stake-weighted quality of service, and even a completely new validator client called FireDancer. Now, they all play a critical role, but the one that most directly attacks that spam problem we've been talking about is the first one on the list, localized fee markets. And this comparison shows you just how elegant this fix is. The old way, one crazy bot-heavy event could cause a traffic jam for the entire network. Your simple transaction got stuck behind a wall of spam. But the new way, it's so much smarter. It contains the chaos. If an NFT mint gets slammed, the fees for that specific application go way up, making it super expensive for spammers while leaving everyone else on the network completely unaffected. It's a game changer. And what this all really signals is a fundamental shift in philosophy. The goal isn't just to process everything blindly at maximum speed anymore. It's about making the network smarter, more resilient, a system that can intelligently manage demand instead of just being steamrolled by it. It's about finally preparing for that worst-case scenario. Which brings us to the final massive question. Solana's whole journey is a real-time experiment in tackling the blockchain trilemma, that famous idea that you can't have speed, security, and decentralization all at the same time. You have to compromise somewhere. These fixes are incredibly promising, but the outages have shown just how brutal that balancing act can be. So, will Solana finally be the one to crack the code, or is the pursuit of ultimate speed always going to come with the risk of a total breakdown? That is the billion-dollar question.